Welcome again to the old principal. 我就是老校长 and this is an English instructional program where we have stories. Some are my stories, some are stories from the internet, from many different sources. We get these stories and we share with you. It's an opportunity to help us with our listening ability. And you'll learn a lot of new words and probably some grammar and all sorts of strange and wonderful things. Today's lesson is cherries and little children. Cherries, 樱桃, and little children. In this case, the little children would be me. Okay? So, let's listen to the story as my wife reads it, and then we'll be right back.
Number 7. Cherries and Little Children. Grandfather loved fruit trees. He lived across the street from my house. Around his home were many kinds of fruit trees. One of the happiest times was cherry season. Many days before the cherries were ripe, they looked ripe to us. Time and time again we were warned to stay away from the cherry trees because unripe cherries caused stomach aches. And it was true. Throughout my childhood, I experienced many stomach aches from eating unripe cherries. Grandpa's cherry trees were so tall that it took long ladders to reach the distant branches. Since the ladders were dangerous, we children were asked to climb the trees. Little children love to climb trees. When it was time to pick the ripe cherries, all of us children volunteered to help pick. About every third or fourth cherry was stuffed into our mouths, not our buckets. We were constantly warned, "Don't eat the cherries. They have been sprayed with poison." That was true, but we discovered that the spray could be wiped off on our shirts very easily. To this day, I am sure that a cherry eaten in a treetop is 10 times better than a cherry eaten at the dinner table. Actually, in our backyard, we also had one cherry tree, but it was worthless. Long before the cherries got ripe, the birds had discovered and eaten most of them. So the question comes to my mind, if the cherry tree didn't produce good fruit, then what value is it? But year after year it blossomed and yielded fruit for the birds, not for us. Our apple tree was better because we used the apples in several different ways. But even then, every other year it didn't produce fruit. During the years it did bear fruit, especially at the end of the hot summer, the wild deer would timidly sneak into our backyard and eat the juicy apples that had fallen to the ground.
Welcome back. Are you ready to go? Grandfather loved fruit trees. That's true. 我的祖父 he loved fruit trees. Okay, 水果树. And he lived across the street from my house. So his home was not far from my home. Around his home were many kinds of fruit trees. Okay, around his home, 围着他的家有很多这个水果树. Going on, one of the happiest times was cherry season. Okay, 樱桃熟的时候，这个季节哇， This was a great time for little boys and my cousins, little girls. We enjoyed this cherry season. Many days before the cherries were ripe, they looked ripe. Ripe 就是熟，还没有熟。So they looked ripe. Man, you can imagine little children, they don't know what's ripe and what's not ripe. If they look ripe, they should be eaten. Going on. Time and time again, we were warned to stay away from the cherry trees. When I say time and time again, I'm meaning that 一次再来一次 many times. I don't know how many times we were warned. 被警告. Stay away from the cherry trees because unripe cherries caused stomach aches. Okay, unripe cherries, 还没有熟的樱桃 caused stomach ache. Have you ever had a stomach ache? 肚子痛. Well, I think we've all had stomach aches. Some of us, many stomach aches over the years. 过很多年. So we know what a stomach ache is. In this case, cherries that were not ripe, they caused stomach ache, 肚子痛. So stay away from the cherries. Going on. And it was true. It was 真的是那样. Throughout my childhood, 童年的时候, childhood, I was experiencing or I experienced many stomach aches from eating unripe cherries. You'd think, you'd think that you'd learn your lesson. 会得一点教训. I mean, hey, let's face the issue. You get a stomach ache, you know what causes stomach ache, but you wait a whole year and next year the cherries look great. So what happens? You do it again. Going on. Grandpas, that meaning grandfathers, 我的祖父的 cherry trees were so tall that it took a long ladder to reach the distant branches. You know what a ladder is? 是一个梯子, huh? And so if you want, these are big cherry trees, not little cherry trees. These are big cherry trees. So you have to have a very tall ladder. Some of them we call the extension ladder, and you pull it up and it goes woo, 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 一直升上去, okay? And so we had these tall ladders, and with the tall ladders, we could reach, okay, 可以达到, okay, the distant branches. Distant means 远远的树枝. Okay, distance meaning a long distance away. And branches of 树枝, branches. Going on. Since the ladders were dangerous, I mean, it's true. The ladders were very dangerous, 很危险, especially for little children. We children were asked to climb the trees. You children just climb the trees. That's all. You climb the trees, you can pick the cherries up there. Now, let me ask you a question. Do little children love to climb trees? Of course. I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, 我的孙女, and I just got an email from my son. It said she just climbed her first tree, not a cherry tree, but she climbed a tree. 5 years old, okay? The little children love to climb cherry trees. Going on. When it was time to pick the ripe cherries, all of us children volunteered to help pick. Okay? So, 这樱桃熟的时候, time to pick the ripe cherries. All of us children, 我们的孩子们, okay, 把自己提供给我们的父母亲 to help pick. Volunteer, that means we 自愿愿意帮忙, 自愿. Okay, we volunteered to help pick the cherries. Pick, 摘这个樱桃. Going on. About every third or fourth cherry was stuffed into our mouths, not into our buckets. Understand why we enjoyed cherry season? Okay, 每3个或每4个樱桃, okay, was stuffed. Now, the word stuff usually means 塞在我们的口里. Okay. If you want to use simple English, stuffed into our mouths means 放在我们的口里. 等于说, we ate them. We ate the cherries. We did not put them into our buckets. 一个提桶啊, 一个水桶, 一个提桶. Okay, a bucket is something that you carry. Sometimes we hung, 就挂在我们的皮带. So we were hanging here, so we could use 2 hands, put the cherries in there. Okay, going on. We were constantly warned. 经常这个被警告, warned, not to eat them. Don't eat the cherries. They have been sprayed with poison. Do not eat the cherries, 因为, always good. Tell your children why. Okay, 因为被喷过. Okay, 杀虫剂. Poison. This is spray. In fact, if you say they have been sprayed, you can say they have been sprayed with spray. Spray is 杀虫剂. Okay, so, and poison is not good. So, don't eat the cherries because they have poison on them. But, going on, that was true. But we discovered that the spray could be wiped off on our shirts very easily. We took the cherry and we just wiped it off on our shirts. Maybe took our fingers, wiped it off a little bit, and then we ate it. Okay, the spray, the 杀虫剂, okay, could be wiped off, 擦掉. Okay, 用我们的衣服，我们的衬衫呢，就擦干净 ，wiped off， 擦掉，擦掉。Going on, to this day, 一直到如今 ，okay, 一直到如今 ，to this day， 到这时候 I am sure that a cherry eaten in a treetop is 10 times better than a cherry eaten at the dinner table. To this day, I am sure, 我肯定 that a cherry eaten in the treetop 在树顶上的这个樱桃 if you eat it up there, it is 10 times better 比在餐桌上吃的好10倍 okay, 10 times better than eaten at the dinner table 餐桌 the dinner table. So, you know that this is good. It is very, very good. Now, let's go on. Actually, in our backyard, we also had one cherry tree. That's true. We did. My grandfather had many cherry trees, but many different kinds, 很多不同的品种. But in our backyard, 我们后院子里, we had one cherry tree, but it was worthless. Worthless, 没用, 无价值. It was worthless. No worth, 没价值. Why? Why was the cherry tree in my backyard worthless? Going on. Long before the cherries were ripe, the birds had discovered and eaten most of them. Cherries had 还没有熟的时候 the birds, 鸟, usually the robins, a robin is a kind of bird, had discovered and eaten most of them. 发现这个 unripe cherries, and they had eaten most of them, which means that when the cherries were ripe, there was almost no cherries there. Going on. So the question I have, this is the philosophical part of the lesson. The question came to my mind. 这个我就想到 came to my mind 想到一个问题. If the cherry didn't produce good fruit, then what value is it? Oh, by the way, I must tell you that when they did get ripe, guess what? they still weren't very good tasting. I didn't think that they were. So if the cherry tree didn't produce good fruit, 不结好的果子来, what value is it? 它的价值何在? What value is a tree that doesn't produce good fruit? Going on. But year after year, it blossomed and yielded fruit for the birds, not for us. Every year. The birds ate it, must have enjoyed it, but we didn't. Okay? Blossomed, 开花. Okay? Blossom, 开花, to yield fruit, 是结果子. Okay? 结果子. But it was for the birds, not for us. Going on. Our apple tree was better because we used the apples in several different ways. We had an apple tree. We had an apple tree, 苹果树. It was called a Gravenstein apple. Makes good apple pie. 做很好吃的这个排饼，水果排饼。Okay. Now, it was better because the apples were used in different ways. Actually, the apples were so good we could make 果汁, we could make juice out of them, we can make pies out of them. So we actually used them several different ways. Going on. But even then, 既然是这样, every other year it didn't produce fruit. That is the special thing about a Gravenstein. It produces fruit every other year. 各一年才结果子. 各一年才结果子. Every other year it didn't produce fruit. Somehow it just needed a year to rest. I don't know why. Okay, during the years that it did bear fruit, and so it was especially at the end of the hot summer, 炎热的这个夏天后半段, right down there at the end, going on. The wild deer, 野鹿, these are wild deer, 鹿, 山鹿, okay, they would timidly, 很害羞的, they would sneak, 偷偷的 sneak into our backyard and eat the juicy apples that had fallen to the ground. So the wild deer had come and they had what? They've eaten the juicy fruit that had fallen to the ground. Because during the hot summer, what do you know about hot summers? They're very hot, and the water, especially in the mountains, the water sort of dries up. So the deer are thirsty. 很渴. Since they are thirsty, they came down. They didn't find any water where we were, but they liked the apples. 他们很喜欢吃我们的苹果. Why? Because there was moisture, 有水分的. Because why? It says right here, they were juicy. So, in this lesson, we got another minute or two here. In this lesson, we've talked about little children. We've talked about climbing cherry trees and picking cherries, using ladders, 梯子, okay, and picking these ripe fruit. We talked about spraying the fruit, 杀虫剂. Okay, we sprayed the fruit to 喷药. So these are all things. Then we talked about the fruit tree in our backyard, fruit trees. The cherry tree was worthless, but the apple tree was pretty good. But even on the summers that the apple tree produced fruit, the happiest animals were animals, not human beings, because they would timidly, quietly, 偷偷地来吃我们的 apples. Well, that's all the time we have for today. It's been great spending this time with you, and I hope that you will join us next time. For now, we've got an email address, theoldprinciple@gmail.com, and we have a website. 我们的网站是 www.theoldprinciple.org. And when you come next time, bring a friend. Then it'll be 2 people enjoying 老校长的节目. For now, that's all we have time for. See you next time.